I think that would help when we do comparisons from one prior month to the next or one fiscal year to the next. Obviously, part-time and full-time aren't equivalent, and therefore can throw off the numbers.
Okay, which is why we could look at doing something different, but the highlighted green, that's where that came up, so we could show what our full-time staff was, which was as of last month, and then just adding in. So each month I bring that full-time staff back according to our accounts.
Okay.
So if there's something different, maybe you and I could talk about that.
Okay.
That you'd like to see on here.
All right, thank you.
Does that help?
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions? I'm sorry.
You got to get that back.
Apologize for that. I just asked about potentially stating the FTE somewhere on this report, and I think it's something we'll look at. I'll speak with Mrs. Mackey. Any other questions for Mrs. Mackey? Yes, Mr. Weber.
I just wondered what under the sheriff deputies, where the number is 39 and then it says deputies 45.
That came from last month. If you recall, the sheriff questioned the fact that I had said 39 deputies. So we wanted to make sure the command, which is the two above it, the administration chiefs and the lieutenants, were among the patrol, which is, they're all deputies.
Oh.
So that's why I was putting the 45 out to let you know that's the total of deputies he has.
All those three numbers together.
Right.
Thank you, thank you.
You're welcome. I also wanted to let everybody know that next month we'll have our benefit consultant, Mr. Lynch, come, and he'll give you an update of where we're at on our insurance. Okay.
All right, thank you. We'll move on to the next agenda item then, which is the County Treasurer's Office. I will take a motion to combine and approve the County Treasurer's Report for February 17, County Collector's Report for February 17, and the monthly resolutions for March and April of 2017. Have a motion to combine and approve? Ms. Weber, second Mr. Hildebrand, and we will do, all those in favor say aye. 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 Opposed, nay. Motion carries. All right, Mr. Treasurer.
Good morning. So a couple things. Diane, I don't know if that letter was included in the packet. Okay. So you have a letter. Okay. So we brought a letter from the county trustee. There was a property that came through here as a resolution. It was demolished between the time it was submitted and by the time the deed was taken, and so they backed it out. We asked them to send a letter. There was no cost to the county for this problem, but Andy and I were just speaking, and I think what has been a problem in the past is the county, the city of Kankakee specifically, has a lot of properties that have like a $70 mowing lien, and so those get refunded back to us by the tax buyers. Of course, they hold on to them for as long as they can. Because there's an interest sometimes in doing that because they can get an interest payment. So I've spoken with Pat Power, city attorney, and we're going to try to clean some of that up because it doesn't make sense for the city to hold out on a $70 mowing lien in lieu of the tax that they might be getting as a result of the sale. Additionally, in the past, I think there was a fair amount of municipal properties that have gone to tax sale. And municipal properties, of course, should never go to tax sale. I think that's, I've been addressing that and we'll continue. That's just being vigilant when we go to tax sale. By law, the municipalities are supposed to file an exemption for their properties. They don't because they don't feel like anything will happen, right? We're not going to sue them. They're not going to pay the tax. So I am in the process of letting everybody know what your municipal properties are, where there's still tax on our books that you need to file an exemption. I'm going to speak with the state's attorney, ask him to draft a letter, request them to do the same. I will publish those tax delinquencies if they're county related, but ultimately I won't take them to sale. Because if you take them to sale, all you're doing is creating a sale in error. As soon as the tax buyer realizes that they can't own the property, they want a refund, and the refunds cost us money. So I want to address that first. That letter, Diane has a copy, and I'd certainly make a copy available to anybody who wants it. It was just one property. It's a trustee, so the trustee essentially is our employee, so we're not paying fees to a guy that works for us. Number two, I wanted to talk about the move. As most everybody knows, I know Mr. Payton came down. Mr. LaJust was by yesterday. I welcome everybody to come look. The move is done. It's phenomenal. Hats off to Brian Gadbois for an awesome job. To Eric Blair, Bruce Clark for putting up with the noise and the interruption. We're in. Space is smaller. I like to say cozy. I'm an optimist. But I was explaining to Carol Weber, I said yesterday, 3 times a different person from Bruce's office came over. And that really is an hour and a half of productivity saved. Because you would have had to walk down, talk about your issue, come back. So that's awesome. And there was a couple of taxpayers or customers yesterday that said, boy, this is convenient. Because contrary to what everybody thinks, the treasurer only takes current taxes. So all back taxes go to Bruce's office. So everybody thinks treasurer takes taxes. They come there, and the senior citizens then turn around and walk back across the parking lot or get in their car. That's all been alleviated. If it's an assessor issue, they're next door. If it's a Bruce issue, he's next door. So from that standpoint, I couldn't be more happy. And I think for my staff to integrate with the other staffs in the building, it's just it's a positive all the way around. And hats off to Andy for pushing it through. I appreciate it. And I think it was done very fiscally responsibly too, which is obviously important. So that's a positive. Everybody in here knows we're now open on Thursday, that there's a resolution in place. In addition to Thursday, we are now open during lunch hour as a result of the move. We now have staggered lunch hours because there's not a security issue. So we're open for taxpayers at lunchtime, which I think is a big plus. It's something I said I would do, and we've now done it. So that's another positive. We've been looking at fees that can be added to, I don't want to say the tax bills, but like say an automation fee. There's places in our process where fees could be added. There are fees that I can add unilaterally, automation fees, things of this nature that haven't been added in the past. Clearly, we're not in a position to turn down additional monies. So we will be adding fees where appropriate, and we will come to the committee where that's appropriate if that arises. And I probably will bring a next meeting will bring up perhaps raising our tax bill copy of a tax bill fee from a quarter to something a little higher. My thinking on that is a quarter. I understand that we want to be reimbursed for what we spend, but at the same time, a quarter doesn't dissuade anybody from walking out to their car to get the tax bill that they've left in the car, and yet it creates an incredible amount of work. I would like something that's, and I won't use the word punitive, but that would make you say, yeah, I'd rather go back to my car and get the bill, because it's not worth a quarter for us to do the work when we have a bunch of taxpayers waiting in line. So those are all the good things. So I need to let the committee know about some challenges that we face. And this is not intended to place blame on anybody, but rather to inform my committee of what's going on. Sale and heirs are, when I came into office, are one of the largest things that were left behind for me. A sale and heir, for anybody who doesn't know, is sort of what I talked about before. Taxpayers bought a property for whatever reason. They decide to give it back to us. It's an amazingly time-consuming and can be a costly problem. I have, since December 1st, I have found 225 saline airs. And they're on this sheet. And those saline airs cover, so that everybody's on the same page, December of 2015 to September of 2016. So as you know, that's clearly way before I was involved. Since I've been here, we've had 10, okay, to give you an idea of what was left versus what we have. 215, the 215 I have here represent $893,000 that I will pay out. The good news is 701,000 of that will be taken from current tax, so it won't cost us anything. The downside to that is that's money I'm now going to claw back from taxing districts, right? That got it last year when they shouldn't have, because these weren't processed. That leaves $391,038 to be paid by the Treasurer's Office. Presently, in the Treasurer's Interest Fund, we have $132,606.10. So we have an outstanding balance of $58,785.28 that presently I can't pay. Here's the problem. Of that $191,000, $65,000 is penalty, interest payments that we now are responsible for at 1% per month. So from December, that's 18%, right? So there's a fiduciary obligation, obviously, for me to pay those claims right away. Because every month, depending on what the cost is, we have interest coming in. So $65,000 is a lot of money. It probably is 2 employees, right? So, and remember, this happened at a time when the office was closed on Thursdays to catch up on work. So I don't know the reasons why it happened. I don't know that potentially the cuts were too great in the Treasurer's Office. If that's the case, it appears that perhaps we've been stepping over dollars to pick up quarters because we're going to end up costing ourselves. I just want the committee to understand that I have a handle on it, that it won't happen again, and that we will pay it through. Now, clearly I have enough money to pay the interest, the saline airs that have interest accruing. I'll pay those right away because we don't want to continue to accrue interest. But it's something that I think everybody in this room needs to know what we found when we came. The person that did this job was a part-timer, and she left in September. Like I said, I don't know why things happened the way they did. I know it's a huge amount of work. Each one of these saline airs takes 45 minutes. So you're looking at 200 hours of work to process them. But we will be up. We just found 100 new ones as we were paying old ones. Some taxpayer said, oh, by the way, you haven't paid us these to December 2015. So we'll work through it. We'll pay them. It won't be a problem for the county going forward. It won't be a problem at this point. We'll make do. We'll figure out how to make do. But I think in the interest of fairness to the committee and the honesty, you all need to know that. Need to know where we're at. Those are big dollars based on where we're at financially. And like I said, they won't have an impact. They'll have an impact in that our distribution to Kankakee County will be reduced by whatever portion Kankakee County got last year that they weren't supposed to get, or School District 111, or so from a budgetary standpoint, it's just not right. It's not fair. These people have budgets. They plan on those budgets, and it's not fair to claw it back, but at this point, that's what has to be done. So I wanted everybody to know that. That's the challenge. I think we have a handle on it, and I'll take any questions.
right, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Africano? Mr. Vickery?
Where do we pay the money from?
Well, the way it, Mr. Vickery, the way we pay it is, so when a sale and air comes through, I'll give you an example. So this one is a total, there's $432 of tax due, $22.72 interest, 54 costs, 65 additional costs for a total of 575. The 432 gets backed right out of current tax operating account, right? That's not a problem. There's money in there. We've been collecting tax. That comes out of there. The costs, the interest, and the fees come out of our, what we call our interest fund, which is our sale and air fund, which gets replenished for every tax we sell. But this now will take all of our sale and air fund and leave us 55,000 roughly in the hole. I hope that answers where the tax comes from. So the current tax is not a problem. There's plenty of money to pay the 701,000, and there's enough to pay 120,000 of the rest, but it leaves about 55.
Somewhere down the line, it's got to affect cash flow.
Well, the current tax is not a cash flow issue because that doesn't flow into the budget. That's a segregated account that only I have. It's in its own account. It's not through the general accounting. It's not included like on MIP. So right now, I think off the top of my head, there's probably 1.6 million in current tax in that account. So 701 won't affect anything. All it will affect is when we distribute tax. When we distribute it to the taxing bodies, they will get proportionally less, you know, divided up that 700,000.
I'm not quite following that, but somewhere down the line, did we interfund borrow that?
Did we interfund borrow? We can't interfund borrow the tax account.
Okay.
We can interfund borrow the sale and air interest fund, and I believe 45,000 right now is interfund borrowed, which is, you know, that's the amount that will be short, give or take 10,000. So,
Thank you.
yep.
Mr. Africano, do you know what portion of that will affect the county's tax distribution? Sorry. Do you know what portion of that will affect the county's distribution?
I don't. I could figure it out. It's just take the, you know, the percentage that the county gets from the distribution and whatever percentage that is of 701. And I can find that out for you. That's easy math. I just don't have it in front of me.
Yeah, I think that'd be helpful to know for the next meeting if you could. Thank you.
And to your point, I don't think that the amount it's going to be reduced is going to be earth shattering, but it's important to know. I get it.
Any other questions for the treasurer?
Yeah.
Mr. Wheeler?
I was talking with Mr. Roof in the back there about the folder inserter that's in the area
Right.
in the VAC. Just checking to see, because we were trying to, he was wanting obviously to find another home for that, but it has to be in a climate controlled area. Have you thought about, you know, the use of it and where that might be put? I mean, is there another area? I know we're limited on space, and I know that's maybe a building and grounds question, but I want to bring it up here since you were sitting here.
Well, yeah, I think that's a great question, Andy. And my understanding is the lease is through 2018 or something. What I've said to Brian, we won't be using it. In the past, I think Becky from the auditor's office has done folding and inserting, and I believe that, and Jake would be better to answer this, I believe she's been tasked to do other things. We are going to send tax bills out to be printed. I think all in all, it'll be a cost savings. So I won't be using it at all. I don't foresee any time in the future I'll use it. Okay. So if we could sort of maybe end that contract and potentially buy it out or get some savings, that would be my recommendation. But I won't be using it.
And not this year. You won't be using it.
No.
Curious. So we're not even going to print our own tax bills here? That's all going to be done outside?
If we print them here, I'm going to tie up staff that I'm already short-staffed on.
Right.
And I'm going to use toner and I'm going to put wear and tear for 65,000 bills on the Xeroxes, and at the end of the day, when you run the numbers, it doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
I mean, all we're saving, the postage is a sunk cost. We're saving the printing,
Okay.
and then I have to have people to do it.
We have the numbers work out. I mean, that's your area.
Yeah.
You know, if it work out with what the allocations are. So, I did want to mention one thing. You talked about the move, and I just so the finance committee knows, it looks like the final numbers on the move and the costs that were incurred are basically, and the hard costs. We're talking just like utilities and those types of things that we can, not the soft costs that you're talking about in efficiencies with other departments. But the hard cost, it's a 2-year recoup, and that's minimal. I mean, it's not long. I mean, we're talking just, just the basic things it takes to have an office over there versus over here. And then you start to add the soft costs, and I would imagine that might be 2 or 3 times that. So just going forward, I think it was not only a sound decision, it's something that benefits the public too. So
Most importantly, I think it benefits the public, and I really appreciate you doing the work it took.
well, everybody did.
Thanks.
It was the board.
Mr. Vickery?
Did I understand we're farming out that process?
Yes,
Did we do a bid or?
we are currently doing them. I have 2 bids in right now.
So that'll come back before finance or?
I believe I will bring it before finance. I will have to. Yes, I will bring it before finance. Is the bottom line. Sorry.
Thank you.
Any other questions for the treasurer? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
We'll move on to the next item on our agenda then, which is the update from Mr. McCarty.
Good morning. The first item we have, we'll need a vote this morning to move on to the full board. This is an annual process for property tax abatements to be tax year 2016 payable in 2017. The bond before you that will be abated is Series 2007 GO bond. It's for the County Health Department. On the back side of your copy is a letter from the Health Department identifying that the funds are available for the payment of the bond. Thus, the abatement means it's coming off the tax roll. And so this is an annual process, and we'll need to vote from finance to move on to the full board. Questions?
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Vickery, second by Mr. Washington. Any discussion? Mr. Payton? You have no discussion. Okay. We will do. Let's do a roll call vote on this.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Lejes? Mr. Washington? Mr. Vickery? Mr. Mulcahy? Mr. Hildebrand? Ms. Weber? Mr. Payton? Mr. Ritter?
Aye.
Mr. Wheeler? Motion carries.
All right, and then the remaining part of your packet, the updates that we look at every month, beginning with the HRA account. Note that the HRA account is on the revenue part of the report is through February, and on the expense side is through the 27th, so that would be through Monday, through claims process through Monday. That's the available balance at this time. And then we have just stop us there if you have any questions there. The sales tax information we just received. The first one for fiscal 2017 is from December. Activity for during Christmas time, so this is usually one of, if not the largest one of the year. So you can.
Yes, Mr. Wheeler.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think, I've thought about this and I haven't asked it before. Is it possible to take a look at the HRA account and have it be like a monthly 2016 versus 2017, almost like our cash flow sheet, so we can start to get a sense of where we're running on how much we're paying out of that account? I don't want to cause too much extra work with the strain, staff levels that we have, but I don't know if that's something that could just be plugged in and just go back 2 years, just kind of a running thing. So we can kind of just look at it at a glance and say, wow, we've got a lot of claims coming in on the HRA, or wow, we're doing really well, at a glance. Sure. Is that something that's hard to put together?
No. So you'd like to take a look at the same time frame a year ago, or
yeah, or even just like we do on the cash flow, that takes just at a glance. We look at the whole year, the monthly trend, almost like we do with the next page is over with sales tax and everything else. Just so we can look on the claims that are going out to be able just at a glance judge, are we doing well this year? I know that Mr. Lynch will come in and give us a better picture of that, but in the months that he's not here, it might give us an idea. So.
All right.
And I don't know how the committee feels, if that would be helpful, but from a management side, it would be helpful for me. So.
As far as the other reports, the income tax report, a little concerning at this point. Seen some negative trend up to this point, so we'll keep a close eye on that. Use tax continues to go favorably, and the PPRT, the replacement tax. We were expecting the adjustment from the state in fiscal year 17. But we had a large change in fiscal year 16, and we've had positive so far in fiscal year 17. So what they reported and the timing of that and how they did it may be different. So we'll have to keep an eye on that one. And they also have the bed rental year to date as well in there. So.
Mr. Wheeler?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Somebody asked me this the last couple of days, and I wanted to see what the accurate statement would be. The sales tax, the 6.25% that's currently collected, if it's from a business that's in a non-municipal area, does the county get the full 0.25%? And if it's within the municipal area, then it's a sharing situation? Or can you give us the breakdown? Because I want to be accurate when I explain that. It's a little bit fuzzy to me.
If the purchase happens within the municipality, the county gets 0.25%.
Okay.
If it happens in an unincorporated area, the county gets 1%.
Okay.
So the county gets 0.25% of all activity, and then we get the additional 1% for anything in an unincorporated.
That's what I needed. Okay.
Just want to make sure I explain that correctly. Yeah.
Right. It shows up underneath the 1%. And that's the breakdown of
the CT and CST.
Right. That's the breakdown. The CST and the CT columns are how it actually gets paid to us in two different amounts that make up the total. We'll show you the trend of that also.
Right. And it's just important to note that the county, the stuff that's in the rural areas, if you will, outside of the non-incorporated areas is, right this last month, 57,000 and within, and that's at the the full percentage points we're talking about. It's 347 for the stuff that's in the municipality. So it just to provide some perspective on, some people think that the proposed sales tax is just sending more money to Springfield. I've heard that a couple of times, and that's absolutely incorrect. Right. It's keeping money here because that other 0.25% does not go to Springfield. It stays right here. So thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Lugess?
I just wanted to point out something on the sales tax. If you look it's probably one of the few times I remember where all the other entities such as Bourbonnais, the county, and Kankakee are on the plus side and Bradley is on the minus side. And that difference of $27,000 is basically what we've lost in revenue in Bradley from Kmart closing. So as you can see, we're anxious to get the Meyer store up and running, because not only will we probably recover that and exceed that amount, but we're getting requests from all kinds of businesses that want to locate in that area because of that Meyer store. There's been 2 remodels. McDonald's is remodeling, and so did Mancino's, and Checkers and Moe's Grill added. So the Meyer store is huge for this area. It really is.
Thank you. Any other questions for Mr. McCarty? I have a small request, if it's not too much. On most of these reports, you have the percentage change on a monthly basis. Is there an easy way to add a fiscal year-to-date change? So we've got at the bottom, per se, if we're looking at the inmate bed rental revenue, at the bottom you have the dollar amount change, 695. Is there a way to do percentage change just to see what the overall trend is for the fiscal year? Yeah. All right. Mr. Wheeler?
Are you asking if the current trend continues, what it would look like for the year end, or are you looking, because if you're only at 3 months, you see my point, you know? Yeah. Are you just looking for an average of those 3, or like if the trend continued, what are we looking at year end? Yeah, essentially it's just going to be an average, but it helps give an idea of what the trend is going forward, and not just on the inmate bed rental, but obviously on all these reports, sales tax, income tax, and so forth. Obviously, some months in some of these areas, the variance from month to month is material, and so the percent change can skew it. And so if we have if we're looking at 8% one month, 13% the other month, it may not average out to 11%, right? It still could be closer to 12%. Yeah. So just a closer trend of what the fiscal year date is. Sure. Yeah. Okay. Sure. Thank you. Mr. Vickery?
Yes, Steve, our first quarter ended the end of February. When will we get quarterly reports as to budget? What departments are where on budget?
The quarterly report usually comes from the auditor's office. I'm not sure where Jake is at with that. It usually gives a year-to-date report. I will be bringing back next month the cash flow analysis report we looked at last month. I can update everyone that we're sitting before the third payroll at about $1.5 million in cash, combined cash. With interfund borrowed and the TAWs. That's after 2 payrolls in the claims for this month and also IMRF. So as we head into March and April after the payroll that will actually be wired out today, it'll drop us down in the neighborhood of 500,000 heading into April. And so April and May will be extremely tight. We'll keep you updated. And that 500,000 is without the additional highway money at this point that was scheduled in April, and we'll continue to discuss that. As far as the timing, when we'll need to do that as the flow goes and the payroll timings and
the interfund borrow of the 1 million is in April.
Right. We have the 500,000 that will roughly anywhere between to 900,000. The original estimate was 900,000. We'll see at the timing of the rest of the receipts for the rest of the month. But as of today, will be about 500,000 after the payroll, roughly. And so we had it scheduled, estimated to transfer the additional $1 million in April. From the highway funds, so we'll to get us through April, May, and then we are relying on an early distribution of property tax in June, a small distribution, and then the major distribution, the first one in July, as far as the timing. So we'll bring that back. As far as payables, total amount through the end of February was $2.5 million. The accounts receivable, although we did receive July salary reimbursement from the state, when you add February back in, it pretty much nets out. So we're sitting about 1.2 million in major accounts receivable. So that really hasn't changed. The picture hasn't changed much from month to month here. So we're watching all that really close. So we did receive a couple of outstanding payments from the state, but when you add the most recent ones in, it all nets out. So we only received 1 month of the back salary reimbursement. So I guess that's something. That's one. But so anyway, those are some updates, and we'll be bringing that back at this as we go forward. So.
I'm curious about one other thing. ICRMT payments for deductibles. Where do we find that? Where can I find it?
That is in the tort fund. As far as where it's reported at, the majority right now is still from our previous carrier, and we've only had a small amount as far as billed from the new carrier for those deductible amounts.
So some of that's still carried over on the old carrier.
Yeah, from previous claims.
Okay.
Until those are finished. Yeah, that's I believe the last bill I opened from that is around 80,000. So that is still a lot of activity going on even with the previous carrier at this point. As far as update with the audit, we're now in the stage of they've been here, spent 4 days, I believe, with us doing the internal work. We're now at the stage of cleaning up the final, answering the final pieces. We're waiting on the actual property tax numbers coming back from the state to finish calculations there, and just a number of miscellaneous issues going forward. So that process is moving along as well. So we'll.
When would the audit be presented?
I believe at the May meeting is what we're shooting for. So.
All right, any other questions for Mr. McCarty? Without backing up, I was just going to make a statement. Part of the reason I had asked the treasurer about the portion that will be reducing the county's distribution is because that does affect our cash flow. And if we are projecting an early distribution in May and then one in June, that will impact our cash flow projections for those months. So that just gives some background information of why that question was asked. So. Mr. Wheeler?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would venture to say that probably that distribution, it would affect the one that comes in July. Yeah, because we wouldn't want to, cut ourselves off of the kneecaps on that one. And it's not going to be, percentage-wise, it's not going to be that dramatic. It is going to be something, and anything in the situation we're in is dramatic, I guess. But the other thing is the committee should know that next month, Finance Committee is going to be a much more robust reporting of where we're at. Because there's a lot of things that we were looking for trends, waiting for things to settle on some of the recent, increases in staffing and increases in revenues and all of those types of things through the activities that are going on in various areas of the county. So we want to make sure that, this is a report. It's a kind of where we're at right now with cash flow, but next month is going to be a more robust discussion about, to Mr. Vickery's point, about quarterly things, trends that we're seeing, things that may and may not be possible going forward. So there are a lot of moving parts that are just starting to really settle, and we're going to be spending a lot of times, I will say nights and weekends, much to the chagrin of a couple of people in here, working on this stuff to make sure that the next Finance Committee meeting is something that is a lot more in depth. So,
thank you. All right, any other final questions for Mr. McCarty? Thank you very much. Move on to the next item on the agenda then, which is the Sheriff's Department update with Sheriff Downey.
Good morning.
The first item on the agenda, the update, and some of this stuff, a lot of this stuff was shared with the Criminal Justice Committee. So for those of you on both committees, I apologize for the duplication, but I think it's important that everybody knows what's happening. So our out-of-county revenue obviously is increasing, which is a good thing. Through February, our total revenue, which includes overtime, salary reimbursement, inmate telephone, and some other inmate revenue, is basically $2.2 million, $2,243,000. If you multiply that out based on that number, that's going to end up being about $9 million, about $8.9 million for the year. So that's a positive thing. Housing only, in other words, the bed rentals total 1.997, so just about $2 million. If you multiply that out for the remainder of the year, it totals $7,988,000 for housing alone. So that's right at $8 million. And based on what we're dealing with ICE, those trends are probably going to go up. So I anticipate that number to be well over the $8 million mark for fiscal year 2017. Questions on that? ICE, to give you a little update on ICE, as I just mentioned, we are progressing. I'm sure that most of you pay attention to the news and see what's going on. The apprehension of those that ICE wants to detain continues to go up. ICE continues to look for bed space. And as soon as we are able to get some more staffing, we have advised ICE that we will certainly take whatever we can. And for those of you that wonder about if ICE is paying, we are now completely up to date from ICE. We just received February's payment. So today is March 29th, I believe. So ICE is paying well within the 30 days. So I think we can put that rumor, complaint, whatever it is, to bed. Some of you may have seen the Tribune article about Kankakee being used as a staging area for deportation, and that part of it is accurate. Starting every Wednesday, ICE, we bring ICE detainees back to our facility who are being deported from the two facilities in Wisconsin, from McHenry and from Pulaski County. So that number, and that's the reason that our numbers seem to be going up a little bit, because we do get paid for those, obviously. And then on Friday mornings, ICE is down here along with some of our staff, and those individuals are put on buses and transported to Gary, the Gary Airport, for deportation. There was a couple disturbing comments in there made by some person who gives attorneys a bad name, where they talked about they were questioning the conditions of our jail without even having been here. And for those of you at the Public Safety Committee, I won't get as mad as I was then, but it rather upset me a lot for somebody who has never been in our building to talk about our conditions and the way we treat inmates or detainees. Like I said, that attorney is welcome to come here anytime and check our place out, as is anybody. And for her to make comments to a national paper like the Tribune is not only irresponsible. I get her feelings on the whole immigration thing, but don't bring down everybody just because you're not happy that people are getting deported. And I'll just leave it at that before I get too pissed off. In addition to transporting to Gary, we are working with our local airport to possibly fly these detainees right out of Kankakee. We're working with some state representatives. We're working with some people at headquarters in DC through ICE, and hopefully, moving that forward and making that a reality. Not so much for ICE and us, but for the community as a whole. Because if the airport is able to take these bigger planes in, obviously that will benefit all of Kankakee County for business, industry. They'll be able to bring in cargo planes and things like that, which will really help which will really help the entire community. So while it will certainly benefit us and ICE, the main goal is to benefit the entire community, and that's what we're trying to do. So we are working on that. The Nakamoto inspection, which, as you recall, we had one in December. That the Nakamoto is a pre-occupancy inspection. Well, the first inspection that Nakamoto did, we already had ICE detainees here. So there were a number of things that, ICE wanted done different, Nakamoto wanted done different based on ICE standards. And they, went through a number of things that we needed to change, that we needed to improve, that we needed to alter some of our policy. And in a matter of a short 3-month period, Nakamoto came back for a follow-up inspection. And I can tell you that not only Nakamoto was very pleased, but ICE was very pleased as well. Chad Kalawenzu, who's the jail administrator sitting in the back row back there, along with his assistant, Rob Schultz, and the individual in charge of dealing with the transportation of ICE detainees, Marlon Woods, Lieutenant Marlon Woods, did outstanding work in a short period of time, and our entire staff has bought into this process, and everybody is on board, and things are going really well. Things are going better than we ever imagined. So credit to the jail staff for stepping up. I'm sure that for those of you that are on Facebook may see some critical comments sometimes from corrections staff about working a lot of overtime and getting mandated. And I don't know about you guys, but I don't like to get mandated to work, although that's part of the job. But these guys are getting mandated sometimes twice a week, and they all got family. They all have things to do. They all have kids. And so they have taken that mandation. Sometimes they don't like it, which you certainly can't blame them, but they have certainly stepped up and made this program what it is, and it continues to get better. So a credit to them. Just a heads up, I received an email yesterday from Judge Erickson. Most of you know that we have an individual who has a murder charge and is paraplegic, quadriplegic, kind of somewhere in between. Right now, he is not in custody. He is at home. We do periodic checks on his home between probation and the sheriff's department. He is going to trial, I believe, sometime in the middle of April. And I will just read you what Judge Erickson sent to us, because this could be problematic from a financial standpoint if this happens. If the trial is delayed by continuance or medical-related mistrial, the court will revisit the defendant's bond status. Presumably, if the defendant is in custody, the risk of reoccurrence of a UTI, which is, what's a UTI, Chad? Urinary tract infection. Pardon me for my medical ignorance. Will be minimized. And while the court is aware of the financial burden and general inconvenience that the defendant's custody would impose upon the county, that concern is secondary to the court's obligation to assure that the defendant and the victim's family receive the benefit of a timely trial. Thus, it is imperative that those with access to the defendant, specifically defense counsel and the sheriff, do all in their power to ensure that the defendant is healthy for this trial and remains healthy throughout this trial. So not only are we corrections and sheriffs, we're now miracle workers. So just a heads up, because if this goes south, what was that? Anyway, so just a heads up that this could become a financial nightmare if he ends up back in our custody. So, and with that, I know we've talked about cash flow, and believe me, I realize cash flow is an issue as much as anybody. But we do have a couple of vendors that are out there that are providing services to the jail from a medical standpoint, both medical supplies and medical care. And the medical care issue is a local issue, and they have already started canceling some appointments for us, which is not a good thing. Because if this medical agency does not treat our inmates or detainees, we have to transport them to Joliet. So obviously that amounts to more cost, that amounts to more of an inconvenience. And so, I'll talk to Steve and the chairman, and we'll talk about what we can do to kind of rectify this. We certainly don't want to lose the medical expense, or the medical supply company that we buy supplies for is the cheapest that we found, the medical supplies that we need for the jail. So we are utilizing this company because it does save us money. So, but I will sit with Steve and the chairman, and we'll talk about what we can do to maybe rectify this. But I just want to give the board a heads up. Staffing wise, I'm sure you saw in the paper the other day that Chief Al Swinford took the Manteno police job. I can't tell you the loss that the effect of the loss will have on our department. Al has been here for 27 or 28 years. He does a lot of things. We had him write out a list of all that he does. And while I don't know what we were anticipating, but the list was rather lengthy. And obviously those are things that at this point, other people in the department will take some responsibility for, but that will be a huge loss to our department. So he is a chief in our department, and certainly a huge loss for not only us, but for the entire county. Also, I got notified yesterday that a long-serving sergeant is retiring and has given us a date of June 17th. So that will be another loss of a deputy on the sworn side. And as I think Lynn talked about, our staffing and corrections is, I don't know, I wasn't here when she said it, but I'm saying 107 or 108, somewhere around that number. We actually lost one to a local police department, so certainly not uncommon. Any questions on all that stuff?
Mr. Wheeler.
Thank you. Mr. Chairman, do you remember, Sheriff, when you were Chief of Corrections, what was the maximum number of COs we had when we had that place, when it was full?
125.
125. Okay, that helps. Because we're doing projections, if we were looking at a maxed out number, that would be a legitimate number for us to use as a baseline.
That would be a legitimate number.
Okay.
And we're planning on getting there.
Okay.
When the detainees get here.
Mr. Vickery?
Yeah, good morning, Sheriff.
Good morning. Welcome back.
The staffing at 112, does that do away with some of the overtime?
Minimal.
It'll take 125 to eliminate most of the overtime?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But we're not.
Overtime was a big issue last year.
And it still is.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, there's no doubt, but.
I mean, you have to staff it. I understand.
Yeah, sure. And believe me, that is the first thing that we talk about when we talk about, do we need to replace a person? I mean, we're trying to stay at that minimum number, yet still keeping the inmates, detainees, and our staff safe. So, you're right. Anything else? Okay. Mike, just take one and pass those. What my esteemed associate Vanna White is passing around is oh, sorry. No, Mike was the Vanna.
Huh? You can keep this one.
There should be one.
I'll go get one.
Okay. And you can have mine as soon as I'm done with it. I have it on my computer. You can want to share for the time being. So what this is we talked about this. We discussed this in criminal justice, and somebody asked if we could put this in writing, because I was just spewing a lot of numbers that I'm sure people were circling in their heads. So I did put it in writing. What has happened over the course of time? Our food vendor at the jail is a local company called the Country Table. They have been with us for a number of years. They do great work in providing a meal that is acceptable not only to the Illinois Department of Corrections, but also to the inmates and detainees. And I know that a lot of people out there are going to say, we shouldn't have to give them food that they like. and people just don't understand how much of a less of a burden it is on our staff when they have one less thing to complain about. And Country Table has done that. They've done that for a very fair price. If you look at this sheet, right now we are feeding each inmate and detainee for $1.50 per person for lunch and $1.65 per person for dinner. I would challenge anybody to go eat for $1.50 today at lunch. So right now we pay approximately, and I use the number to keep it simple, I use the number 550. So if we have 550 inmates and detainees, we're spending approximately, well, we're spending $1,732.50 per day to feed the entire jail. A couple things that, and if we move forward on this sheet of paper, some significant things that they've done. The food service has added 14 additional meals to the rotation, which was a requirement from ICE. She has significantly increased the number of ethnic meals per ICE standards. She's preparing approximately 70 special dietary meals, which actually costs her about 2 to 3 times what it costs, what she's given us the meals for now. ICE officials are very pleased with our meals served. And if you recall me saying from day one, ICE cares about the most important 3 things ICE cares about are food, medical, and safety of the detainees. So obviously food is an important part of us being able to continue to house ICE. Now, when we talk about the proposal, I think when people say, oh, she's going to increase the price, and everybody thinks, oh my God, it's going to be astronomical. She is asking to increase the price of lunch by $0.05 and the price of dinner by $0.05. So using those same numbers per day increases the total cost per day by $55. It would increase the total per month, if you use a 31-day month, to $1,705. And if you multiply 55 times 365, there is additional cost of about $20,000. And obviously those numbers will fluctuate depending on our population. I know Mr. Rowe is not here. He was at the Criminal Justice Committee meeting. He said we can amend this contract, and if Mr. Chairman, if you want to talk to him and make sure we're good with this, I mean, I don't want to do anything out of that's not, but he indicated that we did not have to put this back out for bid.
Just to comment on that, and I have to have the discussion, but it seems to me it's under the threshold for putting things out to bid, the increase. So I think we're going to be okay, but I want to verify that, because being the 20,000 versus 30,000, I think we'd be okay. We'll verify that.
And the issue is when we put this out to bid in the RFP, I mean, this was 3 or 4 years ago. I mean, ICE was, I mean, we talked a lot about ICE, obviously, you guys probably recall, but ICE was not in the picture at that time. So,
Mr. Legess?
Can we vote today to amend it with the concurrence of the state's attorney that it is legal?
it's fair.
I'll make that motion.
Make the motion. Second, Mr. Washington. Further discussion? Mr. Wheeler?
I just want to point, even though that's not germane to the increase, I just want to mention that 225 of those numbers are roughly our own.
Oh, no doubt.
And I just want to point that out, that that's money that we'd have to spend anyway.
Yeah, we would spend that anyway. That's a good point.
That's not anything that we recoup through any other rental,
right,
payments that we would get. So it just puts things into perspective that we do have our own folks there that are outside of this. And one of the goals of this program is to help pay for the financial burden that we already incur for our own.
Yes, that's true.
Yes, Mr. Mulcahy?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mike, would you refresh my memory? What is the total value of the contract approximately per year?
Total value
of the feeding of the prisoners for? We're looking at a Nichols raising at 20 grand. Just if you have that number approximately, or Andy, maybe you remember what that. I could too, and I can do it when I go home. No problem, Mike. I just thought it.
Looks like about $65,000.
About 65.
Is that right?
Well,
That add up?
well, if a nickel increase is 20,000,
No, that can't be right.
no.
Well, I'm looking
it's-
at the total per day,
Mm-hmm.
and multiplying that out by 365.
Okay.
So you did on
If
a
I'm
per,
reading-
you did
I
on a
gotcha.
per,
Okay.
you did on a per person basis.
So yeah,
Mhm.
So if you didn't multiply
so
that
you're
by
looking at quite
Right.
a bit more than that.
So okay, yeah. At 550, it's close to 630,000.
yeah, okay. It's 1787.
Oh, it is.
times
Oh, it is 650. Yeah, it
365.
is 652.
Okay.
I'm looking. My calculators.
52.
Whose book is this?
52.30.
Oh, it's mine.
Thanks.
Yeah. Yeah. 65. Just one decimal
That would have been
point,
nice.
One comma.
Oh, decimal points always get in the way.
Mr. Legess?
Well, I just want to make a comment that what Mike said is true. We want to keep those people happy because I remember when we were giving them Happy Meals, you know, every day for I don't know how long, and toilets were getting blocked and drains were getting blocked, and it is important to give them.
There are all kinds of in our past history, and we won't mention names. And McDonald's sounds great. You know, hey, I'm getting McDonald's for lunch, but 30 days in a row. Anybody eats McDonald's 30 days in a row? God bless them.
To an unhappy meal.
We have had vendors who, and I'll never forget it. We were up in the old jail, and the sheriff was up there with me, and they had lunch, and this one inmate pulls out his ham sandwich, and he says, "Sheriff," he says, "look at this," and you could see through the ham. So that was not.
Transparency in government.
That's right.
All right, any further discussion on the contract? We have a motion on the floor. Mr. Vickery?
Just make a comment. The way I understand it, Mike, is they have a whole code of what they have to supply in calories, and I mean, there's a whole book full of this, right?
Oh yeah, yeah.
So they're complying with all the regulations.
They're
so.
complying with ICE standards. Now, you know, the one thing that, you know, may disturb some people is it benefits our local inmates. But again, that's not a bad thing. It keeps them one less thing that they have to complain about with our staff. So, but yeah, it does comply.
All right, we have a motion on the floor, so we will do a roll call vote.
Mr. Johnson?
Aye.
Mr. Legess? Mr. Washington? Mr. Vickery? Mr. Mulcahy? Mr. Hildebrand? Ms. Weber? Mr. Payton? Mr. Ritter? Mr. Wheeler? Motion carries.
All right, any final questions for the sheriff?
I have a follow-up. Just a question. Is this billed as on a per person per day basis, or is this just an upping of the contract total? Whether we have the number that they're looking for, I mean, it's when you get the bill, we're approving the increase in the per person per day.
It's per person.
Okay, just want to make sure it's not just like a blanket 20 grand or Okay,
No, it's a nickel per lunch, nickel per dinner.
thanks. That's what I need. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Sheriff.
Thank you.
All right, moving on then. Is there any other business to be brought before the committee? Other business? If there is none, is there any old or new business to be brought before the committee? Old or new business? There is none. Someone like to make a motion to adjourn? Mr. Legess, second. Mr. Mulcahy, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, nay. Thank you.